you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know, as we're talking college football on this channel year round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. SEC, which has like 7 teams, 7 teams that are very much in the college football playoff conversation. There aren't like mega matchups. Do think the most interesting one, Alabama at Oklahoma, 13.5-point favorite. The Crimson Tide are. The game is in Norman. It's a night game. The over-under set at 47.5. Kind of weird. I was thinking about this. Quietest I can remember kind of the noise and conversation around Alabama since as long as I've been covering college football, okay? Because Alabama, under Nick Saban, they were always under the microscope. Early this year, under Kalen DeBoer, always under the microscope. You beat Georgia to start the SEC season 1-0. Then you lose to Vandy. The conversation starts there. Then you struggle against South Carolina. Conversation continues. Then you lose to Tennessee. We're writing you off. And it's been kind of weird how quiet things have been around Bama. Now, with Bama, I mentioned this before the LSU game, but I think it's worth noting, the team probably was never as bad as we thought. Yes, the defense was bad against Vanderbilt. No excuse. But the defense against the South Carolina defense against Alabama, I don't think we realized how good South Carolina was defensively when those two teams played a few weeks back. And then Tennessee's an elite defense as well. So I just bring it up because was Alabama that bad, or were those teams, frankly, just probably a little bit better than we realized at the time, especially defensively? Well, I bring it up because it's been probably about a quiet month or so in Tuscaloosa. Since that Tennessee loss, Alabama destroys Missouri at home 34-0. You have a bye. You destroy LSU 42-13. And of course, you take care of Mercer a few weeks ago. And I think there's really 2 storylines that are emerging and narratives that are emerging. One that's obvious, one that maybe isn't. One, obviously, look, what Jalen Milroe's doing is unbelievable. Joked after the LSU game, scored 4 touchdowns in a single game. Reminds me of Al Bundy. Remember that? 4 touchdowns in a single game. Polk High, baby. That's right. But also, I don't think people fully realize the defense is actually playing really well. And Kane Womack took a lot of crap, a lot of heat over the course of the early part of the season. But again, I don't know how many people know this. Alabama, do you know right now, has one of the top 10 scoring defenses in all of college football? That's kind of a crazy stat. That is kind of unbelievable, and it is kind of 100% accurate, as they are statistically one of the top 10 scoring defenses in college football. Again, I get that you're playing against a Missouri team that had a backup quarterback. I understand that LSU maybe isn't as good as anybody thought even 2 weeks ago. Doesn't change the fact top 10 scoring defense at this point in the season. And oh, by the way, doesn't change the fact that you're playing an Oklahoma team that can't really move the football, okay? And so listen, what I would say about Oklahoma is a couple things. One, obviously, there was some news about Brent Venables' wife, her health, no joking aside. I saw that as I prepped for the show today. Awful news. We're all thinking of her and her health and all that good stuff. But beyond just, the off the field stuff, my personal opinion, and I might get roasted by Oklahoma fans for saying this, I think the narrative on Oklahoma is a little bit wrong. Everybody keeps telling me, oh, Brent Venables, he's on the hot seat. He's terrible. And they might not fire him this year, but next year, da-da-da. And it's like, well, I don't disagree. I think if you go 5-7 or 6-6 this year, they're 5-5 right now, and then you go 5-7 or 6-6 next year, yeah, you're probably out. Okay, I'm not going to argue that. But what I keep coming back to with Brent Venables and with Oklahoma is one thing that's very clear. First off, he's a defensive coach. His side of the ball is figured out. We're going to talk about that defense in just a minute. But even offensively, here's the truth. They don't have an O-line. They came into the season, 5 new starters on the offensive line, and everybody knew that was going to be an area of weakness. And so it's hard for me to evaluate the quarterback. It's hard for me to evaluate the run game when the O-line just kind of stinks. And so we've talked about it. I'm not making an excuse, but that's a reality. And it makes it hard for me to gauge how really awful is this team. Is this team awful, or do they just have one spot on the field that they're absolutely anemic and terrible? It's a good question, but what's also worth noting, this defense is actually pretty good, okay? This defense is still a top 25 defense in all of college football. Very important and very noteworthy for this game. Top 20 run defense in college football. And beyond that, and again, also very worth noting and very important for this game, They allow the second fewest big plays. We just talked about the big play stat in the Indiana-Oklahoma game. Second fewest big plays in the SEC this season. And they're number 2 in tackles for loss. They make big plays in the backfield. The defense is good. I mean, you even go back to the loss to Missouri last 2 weeks ago. I mean, they gave up 10 points going into the fourth quarter. They were in control of that game. They give up, 2 touchdowns in the final minute to lose? So I just bring it up because this team, the team probably isn't as bad as we think, even if the O-line and the offense is. And so with that said, I hate to be boring. I know I'm going with too many unders. But my best bet and one of my best bets of the week, I think, is the under in this game of 47.5. Because first of all, listen, the Jalen Milroe stuff is really cool. He's awesome. Again, 4 touchdowns in a single game, 2 years in a row against LSU, by the way. I think part of that might be to LSU, their defense, their scheme, their whatever, their personnel. But also, and I keep coming back to this, it's October 19th as I'm recording this show. It's going to be October 23rd, 24th when this game is played. What is Alabama's offense right now in 2024 in the middle of October? I don't think we know, but what I do think is still clear is if you can slow down Jalen Milroe, they still haven't really proven an ability to move the ball. Now, the argument would be, well, Jalen Milroe is one of the greatest athletes in college football right now. So it's like saying, yeah, if you could slow down Patrick Mahomes or if you could slow down Lamar Jackson, easier said than done. But again, you go back to the losses. It's games and teams that were able to keep Jalen Milroe from beating them with his legs. And even in the wins, like the Alabama LSU game a few weeks ago, it's a great win for Alabama. Nobody's saying that it's not. You put up 42 in the Bayou. That's incredible. I'm not trying to take away from what Alabama did, but what I am saying is this. Of all those points, 42 points, Jalen Milroe had 4 rushing touchdowns. They had 420 yards of total offense, 185 yards rushing from Jalen Milroe. So Jalen Milroe accounted for not quite half of their offense with his legs, but we still haven't seen in that game, by the way, 109 yards passing in that game. So the whole offense was Jalen Milroe running the ball. And it's like, it's hard for me to know who they are. And this Oklahoma defense is still good. So it's hard for me to pick Oklahoma because, the offense ain't very good. But when I look at this game, I do see a scenario where it can be close because that Oklahoma defense is good. I'll say Alabama wins 20-12, 21-13, something like that. But I don't think we get anywhere close to the 47.5 in this game. Give me the under 47.5.